Since we dismissed Thunderfoot from the freethoughtblogs network, I've seen Thunderfoot forcefully misrepresent our actions on YouTube, so I thought I would reply in his preferred medium. He and his followers clearly have no idea what the word freethought means, are clueless about the Freethoughtblogs network, and have mangled the whole rationale for kicking Thunderfoot out. So let me address these problems. First of all, what is freethought? There's a shockingly deep misconception about freethought promoted by the trickle of complaints I've been getting in email and Twitter, and by Thunderfoot himself, that freethought means unconditional support for just about anything anyone might want to say. They seem to have mistaken the freethought, all in one word, movement, for the principle of free speech. This is clearly wrong. Freethought is not about encouraging, for instance, the promotion of religious dogma. If Thunderfoot were consistent, he'd also be complaining that universities and the Freethoughtblogs network are intolerant of creationists too, because sometimes you just have to be intolerant of wrongness. Freethought encompasses a body of principles. It is actually a specific philosophy, not a vacuum that allows that anything goes. It is a direct rejection of the supernatural and the incorporation of rational empiricism into decision-making. Freethought is also a product of the Enlightenment and carries with it all of the philosophical implications of that movement. There is a spirit of the Enlightenment that is being neglected in Thunderfoot's rationale. We most definitely aren't a social cipher. We have and should have greater goals, and we like the Enlightenment. That movement is about reason and science as our guiding principles. Faith and dogmatic religion are the enemy. But it goes beyond that. It's also about personal autonomy, equality, and liberty, the right of the individual to live their lives on their own terms and to have an equal shot at all opportunities. It also has the ideal that all humans are part of a universal community, that race and sex and beliefs should not compromise one's status in the world. And finally, and this is often the difficult one for many to accept, it has political implications. The children of the Enlightenment should strive for the progressive betterment of all through social and political action. That was one of the core principles of the American Revolution, that everyone should be able to better themselves, that stasis was not a goal, and that the past was not better than the present, but that we can become greater. These are views shared at Freethoughtblogs, the website. They drive what we write about. And now I must clear up some misconceptions about our blog network. So what is Freethoughtblogs? It is, first of all, a loose community of atheists, each working away within the framework of an interlinked group of fellow writers, all writing away about their perspective on atheism. We have scientists and philosophers and poets and cooks and social justice crusaders and angry anti-theists and skeptical rationalists, all working independently on a common cause. We sometimes disagree and argue. We can squabble over many little things, but we are still united in a common cause, and that makes us something else. We are also an Interessengemeinschaft, a fellowship of interests. Even when we're in personal disagreement, we still have a healthy, selfish interest in our association. The presence of all those other bloggers on the network gives a boost to my blog, and I and everyone else add a little extra clout to each of the other members of the network. It's a simple principle of synergy, the whole being more than the sum of its parts. This is a team. We have grown by bringing in people who share our common vision of a secular, progressive world. Which brings us to why Thunderfoot was dismissed. But I first have to apologize. We were very wrong in a couple of ways. One was that I know Thunderfoot, and I like him personally. I also greatly respect his anti-creationism work. So we were lazy in vetting him for admission, and didn't look all that closely at whether his views were compatible with our goals. They are not, as we discovered too late. We should not have wasted his time and ours with his brief tenure on Freethought blogs, and we did him a disservice by not screening him more carefully as a candidate, and I'm sorry about that. Another problem is that after he was accepted, then several of our other bloggers started questioning his suitability within electronic earshot, citing hearsay and extremely poor evidence. Not only was this unforgivably sloppy, but it was an extremely unpleasant way to introduce him to the network and gave him a justifiably poor view of our collegiality. I fear it brought him in with a chip on his shoulder right from the start, and for that poor behavior on our part, I am extremely sorry. But really, more pre-screening would have prevented all this drama. As his first post went up, we were appalled. As talented as he is as a video blogger, those abilities do not, in his case, transfer well to the writing style of a blog. For instance, frequent shifts into bold, italic, or all caps does not represent good writing style. We were made rather uncomfortable by it all, but it wasn't in itself cause to throw him out. It was just merely one of the factors that added up to it. What really broke our interest in supporting him was his style of argumentation. He provoked intentionally responses from a number of us on Freethought blogs, Greta, Christina, and I at some length. In every case, he responded to our every criticism by accusing us of strawmanning him. He'd claimed that he didn't say or imply whatever we found objectionable in his argument. This is a ridiculous strategy. It meant either that he was such a poor writer that he was completely incapable of communicating what he meant, or that he was such a sloppy thinker that he was getting angry with us on issues on which he completely agreed with us. It was bizarre and frustrating. He wants to claim the right to principled dissent from the plurality of views, but every time he gets called on it, he runs and hides behind an army of excuses, of straw men of his own invention. Yet at the same time, he actively constructed straw men for us. Somehow he had this idea that expecting consent from women for wild behavior in bars was equivalent to demanding forms in triplicate. If Thunderfoot wants to understand what a straw man argument actually is, he might try looking in a mirror. And then the final straw for me was when he decided to conduct an online poll in his own YouTube video channel to determine who was right, PZ Myers or Thunderfoot. Just the assumption that you settled this by popular vote, that's deeply disturbing. And then he tried to claim that this was a poll free from confirmational bias because he didn't block or ban anyone. Never mind the extraordinary selection bias in it, not only in his self-selected audience, but that it was made in response to a video that gave only Thunderfoot's views, completely misrepresented mine, and gave me no opportunity to state my side of the story. And then he claimed that he had shown that Freethought blogs was widely unrepresentative of the wider rationalist community because apparently the wider rationalist community is entirely the YouTube commenters on his channel. He should be deeply ashamed of this false and manipulative disrespect for any reasonable scientific integrity shown by that graph. I'm sitting here feeling embarrassed for him that I'm showing it. It is disgraceful nonsense. It also represents a peculiar attitude. What he demonstrated in his series of posts was a deep contempt for Freethought blogs. He didn't like what we wrote about. He thought we were unrepresentative. He dismissed everything we wrote. Why did he accept the offer to join us? He clearly knew exactly what we stood for since he jumped on it forcefully in just his second post. There was only one reasonable conclusion. Thunderfoot was trolling Freethought blogs. He was uncollegial and hostile. His only interest was in disruption and opposition, And he clearly did not share in those free thought ideals or our fellowship of interests. In fact, as his recent complaints have shown, he didn't even understand what free thought is. So we did what we always do to trolls. We kicked him out. It was the only rational thing to do. And you know what? We're going to continue to promote reasonable anti-harassment policies and equal respect for everyone at conferences and in everyday life, things that Thunderfoot opposed. Because that's what freethinkers do. Thunderfoot claims that he was fired over a minor political view on feminism. He's wrong. Supporting the equality of women and other underrepresented groups is not a minor issue on freethought blogs. It shouldn't be a minor issue anywhere else either. It's right there at the core of our principles. He's free to disagree with that elsewhere, but we believe that reason and justice dictate that every person deserves equal treatment. And anyone who disagrees with that simply need not apply to join our group. And that's my side of the story.